So why is Lamar Jackson held to a different standard than most quarterbacks in the NFL? This is one question that I cannot answer, but year after year, we have given you proof that Lamar Jackson is held to a standard here while his peers may be held down here. But yet and still, they rank these guys above Lamar Jackson. Case in point, let's take the first week of the NFL season. Thursday night, the Baltimore Ravens took on the world champion Kansas City Chiefs, and they lost 27-20, with the Ravens coming oh so close to tying the game up, with Lamar Jackson hitting Isaiah Likely in the back of the end zone, but his foot hit the line. Now, if you watch the game and just not watch the highlights or the people talking about the game, you'll realize the Baltimore Ravens never stood a chance in this game without Lamar Jackson and his heroics. But that's not what they talked about. As soon as the game was over, it was about Lamar Jackson. You have to make these throws. Lamar Jackson, you have to play better. Lamar Jackson, you have to do more. Then they rewound the tape and brought back up some old stuff. And of course, is he a quarterback? Is he a thrower of the ball? All these things that people wanted to talk about immediately after the game. Now, here we are 4 days later. People are still making videos. People are still commenting on what happened versus the Chiefs. But luckily for us, that was not the only game that came on this weekend. Yesterday afternoon, we had the, for some, AFC North winning Cincinnati Bengals taking on the rebuilding Gerard Mayo, Jacoby Brissett-led New England Patriots. And just like me in my pickers pool, I picked the Bengals to win the game. I just figured with everything that New England had going on, they're rebuilding. They don't have a lot of talent. They're starting a journeyman at quarterback, like slam dunk, it's a layup. But there was always this thought in the back of my mind that Cincinnati doesn't start the season off well. They have not over the last 5 years. But I figured, hey, you have the second most talented quarterback in the NFL by some. They should easily win this game. But when it was all said and done, the New England Patriots upset the Cincinnati Bengals. Who would have thunk it? Who knew? Not me. So after this defeat, it got me to thinking. I was wondering, hey, Joe Burrow, by all intents and purposes, by all measurements, by all rankings, by a lot of these publications, is the second best quarterback in the league behind Patrick Mahomes. They say this constantly. When they're doing their rankings, Joe Burrow is either 2 or 3. More likely he's number 2 because he's beaten Patrick Mahomes. So I sat back and I waited. I was like, okay, let me hear about the second best quarterback in the league losing to a rebuilding, struggling franchise. Because New England has been struggling for some years now. This is exactly why they got rid of Bill Belichick, possibly the greatest coach in NFL history. So they started from the ground up. They let go of a lot of people. They just traded Matt Judon. Like, they have a lot of moving pieces where they're trying to direct their future. They have a first-round quarterback that they did not play, so not much was expected of them. I expected the second greatest quarterback in the NFL to easily come and dispose of this team. But we had 2 factors going into this. Actually, 3 factors going into this game. First factor is the Bengals didn't realize how much they were going to miss Joe Mixon, because Joe Mixon in Houston yesterday showed them out. Secondly, T. Higgins was hurt. He couldn't play in the game, and Jamar Chase just returned to the team, so he was going to be limited in any kind of capacity. But what you're telling me is, if you have the second greatest quarterback in the NFL, he's going to make magic happen. I've seen Patrick Mahomes with a lackluster wide receiving core go out there and do things and get it done. So, of course, Joe Burrow could do these things, correct? Because Lamar has to do this year in and year out. Statistically, Lamar has had one of the worst receiving rooms in the NFL each and every season of his career. So you're telling me, with half a superstar and a roster that's been together for a little bit, that the second best quarterback in the league couldn't get it done? Now, me personally, I could not care less where you rank your quarterbacks at. You have Lamar at 10, I don't care. It's all personal opinion. Everybody has their favorites and they're going to rank them higher than they normally would somebody else. But the thing that gets to me is Lamar loses, and you got to make that throw. You got to be better. You got to do this, you got to do that. But yet and still, nothing's mentioned about Joe Burrow. I waited to record this video because I wanted to see if the headlines were going to be Joe Burrow falls flat on his face. Joe Burrow, you have to do better. Joe Burrow, you have to make that throw. Joe Burrow, you have to lead your team. None of that happened. I especially stayed up last night to watch Nightcap with Shannon Sharp, because he's been one of the strongest proponents against Lamar Jackson, and he's had a lot of things to say. He's waffled a little bit on which side he's on, but he's had things to say. So I waited, and then Nightcap came on. Finally, we get to the segment about the Cincinnati Bengals. And what did they say about the play of Joe Burrow? Not much. He just blew the dust off of it and went on to the next thing. And they talked about betting against the Bengals. And like, it went somewhere else. So then I woke up this morning and I said, okay, I don't even need to watch any of these sports programs. I just want to see the headlines. I just want to see my timeline flooded with Joe Burrow. It didn't happen. Outside of the small creator like myself, most people didn't say anything about it. Or if it was mentioned, especially on Twitter, it was how the Cincinnati Bengals had to do better. Not to mention the second best quarterback in the league needed to come up bigger in bigger games. Now, if you look back, especially over the last 3 seasons, these Cincinnati Bengals, they just never win in week 1. They're 0-3. They failed to score a touchdown in the first half of games. Like, they just look terrible. And that is normally under the first 2 or 3 games under Joe Burrow. But let's just stick to this season. How about that? We'll stick to this one. And we'll go back to Lamar Jackson playing against the Kansas City Chiefs, world champions, last season's number 2 defense. Lamar Jackson completed 26 of 41 passes for 273 yards with 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. And just for kicks and giggles, we're going to add in Lamar's rushing, where he had 16 rushes for 122 yards. So with numbers like that, it tells me that he did everything in his power to help beat the world champs. Just didn't happen. And now that I think about it, out of all the top quarterbacks in the league, did Lamar Jackson have the most passing yards? But he's not a passer, So now let's skip forward to Sunday in Joe Burrow versus, once again, the upstart, rebuilding, retooling New England Patriots. Joey Burrow completed 21 of 29 passes. Pretty good percentage right there. For 164 yards. And the argument's going to be, well, Jamar Chase wasn't fully available and T. Higgins wasn't there. You know, he had to play with just anybody. But my thought was, Lamar's supposed to elevate people. When we say go out here and get Lamar Jackson help, it's stop with the excuses. Emmanuel Acho, stop it. I'm tired of hearing the excuses. I'm tired. He doesn't need help. If he's this good, he can do it by himself. Well, why are we changing the narrative for Joe Burrow? Why, when it's someone other than Lamar Jackson, everything and the energy we put out to Lamar, it gets shifted. It gets moved. Josh Allen, I remember last season when he lost in the playoffs, the narrative that was spun was he can't do it alone. He needs more help. Never say that about Lamar. They just tell Lamar he needs to get better. He needs to play better. They don't look at his surrounding cast and see what he's throwing to or what he has in the backfield behind him. It's always Lamar, do better. Everybody else need help. Then if you want to go with another narrative that was spun going into last season, and you know, calm as a bee. And I'm sorry, I love you. I love the time that I have spent down in Atlanta, but you're getting exactly what the hell you deserve. You and the league colluding together, you're getting exactly what you deserve. You spun a narrative, and even beloved owner Arthur Blank, I don't know if I want Lamar, and you know, just the way that he plays, just the injuries, I don't know if we can do it. You all spun that injury narrative, but yet still you signed an injured Kirk Cousins who looked like horse crap yesterday. But the 2 injured seasons that Lamar had out of 6, hey, it happened, can't debate it. It is what it is. 2 out of 6 seasons, he was injured, okay. But then we switch it to your boy, Joe Burrow, like LeBron James, Joe Burrow, like you switch it to you switch it to Joey B, and he's been injured 2 out of 4 seasons, so 50%, and it was bookends. He missed 6 games in his rookie year, and he missed 6 games last season. But we don't call Joe Burrow injury prone. No, we don't do that. We make excuses for him. We give reasons why he doesn't succeed. And I do get it. It's because he has a 3-1 record versus Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. This is why he is anointed and elevated above most, because he consistently beats Patrick Mahomes. He beats him in the regular season. He beats him in the playoffs. Get it. But Lamar is 3-1 versus Burrow. And 4-1 if you count last season, but Bengals fans are going to cry that Joe Burrow left the game like he was playing well and they were going to win. So we'll just go with 3-1. So you beat the man and you're elevated. Lamar beats the man and beats the man, and he's downsized. He's down, his role is downplayed. So these were all the things that were brandished about when it came to not signing Lamar because he was injury prone. But Joe Burrow is just fine. Joe Burrow at one point signed the largest contract in NFL history. Now they talk about Deshaun Watson because Deshaun Watson, since yesterday, since the game ended with Cleveland and Dallas, they plastered Deshaun Watson all over everything. Oh, horrible, terrible contract. He's not playing well. What about Joe Burrow? Ever since Joe Burrow signed his contract, his play has not been all that, and he's not been healthy, just like Deshaun Watson. But of course, the headlines aren't the same. Joe Burrow, for some reason, I guess because of the Super Bowl, he gets a pass. All of these things that we lump on these other quarterbacks, certain other ones, and I'm not going to say why, but certain other quarterbacks, they get a pass for it. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not here to tell you that Joe Burrow's better than Lamar. I'm not here to tell you that Lamar's better than Joe. I'm just here to say, evaluate your quarterbacks equally. That's the only thing I'm saying. You're telling me Joe Burrow's number 2, but yet and still, when things are compared, when you measure the comparables, something's a little bit off. But I'll take that. Just make sure by the end of the day, when I go to the FS1s and the ESPNs, when we see those guys that normally criticize Lamar, make sure you back it up and do the same for Joe Burrow and ask, why is he not playing better? Or is it going to be the same narrative that he needs help? Oh, and don't forget, didn't forget you either, Nick Wright. I remember your Mahomes Mountain and all offseason long how you told us. Now, he was the one that didn't say Joe Burrow was the second best quarterback in the league. He was the one that said Caleb Williams was the second best quarterback in the league. And there were points and times where he pointed out Lamar Jackson personal, that he would take Caleb Williams over Lamar. He pointed it out and said it's undeniable and true, and he thinks that Caleb Williams is going to take the team to the Super Bowl. He's currently, or he was currently at the time in college, the second best quarterback in the NFL, which is insane to me. But Nick Wright, let's see what your boy did yesterday. In Caleb Williams' first game, he went 14 for 29. It's not a good percentage for the second best quarterback in the league, but 14 completions for 93 yards. 93 yards. So your second best quarterback, the quarterback that's going to lead his team into the future, he's going to come in and throw for less than 100 yards. And I don't want to hear, oh, well, he's a rookie, give him grace. You said he was the second best quarterback in the league. He doesn't need grace if he's number 2. But once again, the narrative is spun for people that you like. These networks hold the power as to who they are going to disgrace and who they are going to promote. And all I'm saying is make sure you keep it a buck, keep it a bean when you start evaluating quarterbacks. You can talk all the smack you want as rivals. I expect that. The one thing I do expect from people is I expect you to keep it real. I expect you to tell the truth in these conversations and stop regurgitating nonsense that you hear on these networks. Just because you hear somebody on TV say something does not make it true.
I can't put anything on the internet that isn't true.
Where'd you hear that? The internet.
So Joe Burrow being the number 2 quarterback in the NFL, my only question to you is, since when?
Nah, man, I'm cool.